Om Sarvadharma Sthapakastam Sarvadharma Swarupaka Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Ayate Namaha. We are studying Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, as the spiritual teacher, second part, and we are in the fourth chapter as the spiritual teacher concluded, and we have read up to paragraph 15. And the topic is that Sri Ramakrishna used to see everything from two standpoints, like ours and from a higher point. And we have seen that both are important for us. If we did not see from a higher point, then what is the difference? We can also see. But if we did not see from our point, how could we understand that what he says is true? Something must tally with us. So that is, both are equally important. And that is the beauty of the avatars. Because they come down as men in the man's body and man's mind, they can see things like we see. And so there is something common. And the same thing when they see from higher standpoint, we can understand that that is true. So that is the beauty. And one additional point he has said that even from our lower standpoint, he could see things much more clearly because there was no attachment in him. Now, when he will tell us that, we will also know that. So that is something which we can also catch if somebody shows us. So he is teaching us in these two ways. He is showing us from our lower standpoint many things which we did not observe. And that we will immediately accept because yes, that was there. Like that we'll see. And then when it talks from the higher standpoint, we'll accept the truth. Now, he has gone on describing all this. Now the application of this in our life. And that application is in the 16th para. The master knew from a higher plane of consciousness the amount of the power manifested and solidified as it were in the particle. This translation is not exact. Spiritual power, not any power. So, please add that in original Bengali, power is not mentioned at all. Bhaver jamater tar pariman bija. Bhaver jamat. Spiritual mood solidified. Jamat. So if that you call power, it should be called spiritual power. Or spiritual mood manifested and solidified. How much? So his body or mind had become a barometer like. Like we keep the barometer to see the pressure. He could feel through his higher vision how much spirituality is there. We can even say spirituality. That's all. Higher plane of consciousness, the amount of spirituality manifested and solidified is very in any particular place. The master saw all things and persons from the two standpoints mentioned before and then came to a certain conclusion about them. Otherwise, it would become something subjective. But when he saw from our point of view also, objective, we can also see. He did not form any opinion like us, who make observations from the ordinary plane of consciousness only. Therefore, when he undertook travels to holy places and paid visits to holy men, in two places he is applying that. He estimated their spiritual values in both these ways. Both these ways, spiritual values means from our standpoint, how much our mind is raised. And from higher standpoint, how much was concentrated actually there. It was by an observation from higher planes of consciousness that the master knew how much of high spiritual power was concentrated in any particular place of pilgrimage. In other words, how much power a particular holy place had, power of helping man to ascend to those planes. That is spiritual power. How much power is there to help a man to ascend to this plane? The master's mind, destitute of the attachment to sights, tastes, and other objects, and always pure like those of gods, was a wonderful detector and indicator of that subtle fact. Because another defect in us, if you are attached or tempted, we lose even the observation itself. So that was not there in the master. It was pure like God sees. There is this sentence. Devatulya Pavitramma. No, I got doubt because don't talk of God. Capital G God. Gods. Devatulya Pavitramma. No. No. Devas have a lot of enjoyment in them. It is like God. Always pure like that, like those, like that of the God, like that of God Himself. It was from that high plane of consciousness that the master saw Kashi golden and could understand how a jiva became free from all bondage at death in Kashi. It was from the same high plane again that he experienced a special manifestation of divine presence at Vrindavan and had the immediate knowledge of the existence of the subtle presence of Sri Gauranga at Navadvip down till today. It is well known that Sri Chaitanya discovered the places of the sport of Sri Krishna at Vrindavan. So something similar in other incarnations. Then we understand. Sri Chaitanya was the first, it is said, to experience the manifestation of divine presence at Vrindavan. Before his advent, the holy places of pilgrimage at Vraja were almost forgotten. When he traveled in those places, his mind ascended to higher planes of consciousness and he experienced the particular divine manifestation of Sri Krishna in particular places, where long ago Bhagavan Sri Krishna had actually sported. Now that is a funny thing. That power, that spiritual power is maintained for ages together. Ordinary man will not be able to detect. If some temple is created, man will detect something. But at a place, and Mahaprabhu, an event, he could actually find this is where Shri Krishna did like that, this is where he played like that. So much sensitive the mind becomes. In Chaitanya's case, to a particular thing, that is Shri Krishna's. And in Thakur's case, everywhere is fine. Kashi or everywhere. That is the difference we notice here. Similar to Chaitanya, but much more wide in scope. His disciples, Rupa, Sanatana, and others, at first put their faith in those facts. So somebody has to believe what Chaitanya is saying. So his disciples believe what he is telling, which was successfully handed down by them and their disciples to all the inhabitants of India. So then that Shishya Parampara, they told us that it is here, throughout India. It is in this way that they have come to believe in those facts. They means we. We could not have at all understood the aforesaid manner of Sri Chaitanya's discovery of Vrindavan and would not have at all entertained the idea of its possibility had we not seen the power of the Master's mind. That is Chaitanya said, and his disciples believe, and we believe. We would not have accepted this. But we saw him Master every day. So through Thakur we understand avatars. Through avatars we understand Thakur. And find Thakur unique and more wide, like that. Had we not seen the power of the Master's mind of rightly detecting and understanding things and persons from higher planes of consciousness. And in spite of that, how little have we believed in those facts? Here are, however, a few examples of this. That means an ordinary man, they have said, we don't believe like that. Such events in the Master's life, in Bhava Samadhi. So now he is coming to particular incidents. He had the vision of the former image of Mridmai at Varna Vishnupur, small town in Bengal. Hriday, the Master's nephew, belonged to the village of Siod, not far from Kamarpukur. The Master, who I have told the reader before, went there occasionally and spent some time before he returned to Dakshineshwar. The Master was there on one occasion when there arose an altercation over some secular affairs between Hriday's younger brother Rajaram and another person of the village. Why he had to go there? That outside circumstances. From words, they gradually came to blows, and Rajaram, happening to find a hookah near at hand, struck him on the head with it. The injured man sued Rajaram for assault, went to court. As the event happened in the presence of the master, and as the man knew him from before as honest and truthful, he cited him as a witness. He knew him as honest and truthful. Otherwise, his relative will speak on his behalf. Like that, he did not entertain the fact. The master, therefore, had to come to Vanavishnupur to appear as a witness. He did not appear. Huh? Before he came there, he scolded Rajaram very much for being thus blinded by anger. And when there, he said to him again, compound the case anyhow by giving him money. Compound means agreement outside court. That is called compounding, legal matter. The case will otherwise go against you. I can by no means tell a lie. As soon as I am asked, I shall plainly say what I have seen and known. Rajaram got frightened and set about compounding the case. The master took that opportunity to go out and see the town of Vanavishnupur, mandirs. The condition of the town of Vanavishnupur. At one time, that town was very prosperous. This becomes clear from the existence there of big ponds like Lal Ban, Krishna Ban, etc. People dig these ponds, rich people. Of a great many temples, of the clean, broad roads for the convenience of pedestrians, of the bazaars full of shops, and of the ruins of numberless temples, some we see and some ruins of the temples, and residences of many people, ruins, and from the flowing in and out of many people for trade and business purposes. The princess of Vishnupur, princess, where? That means plural. No, the princess word can be a lady or gentleman in plural. But where is plural? Oh, better would have been kings. Princess means we think that they are Rajkumars. Raja Ra. That means not one king, but succession in that family. Princesses, we think a group of people. The kings of Vishnupur, rulers or kings, were once very religious and powerful and great patrons of learning. The town was formerly famous for the cultivation of music. The princely family became the followers of the Vaishnava cult. Shortly after the passing away of Rupa Sanatan and the other companions of Sri Chaitanya, the Sri Madan Mohan and Mridmay, two deities there. The image of Sri Madan Mohan, installed at Bagh Bazar, Calcutta, belonged formerly to the princess of this place, to the rulers of this place. Once upon a time, Gokul Chandra Mitra, it is said, lent a large sum of money to the prince of that place. He became charmed on seeing that image When the time for the repayment of the debt came, he, instead of receiving the money back, asked the prince the image and got it. Beside Sri Madan Mohan, there was a very ancient image named Mrinmayi, installed by the princess. This word appears hopeless. The goddess Mrinmayi, it was said, was a living presence. We have discussed what is living presence. Was very much awakened, same thing, as they called her. Once when the house of the prince fell on evil times, that image was broken by a mad woman. The family therefore installed a new image in its state. History is telling, now how master's mind detected. After visiting all other temples, the master was going to pay his obeisance to Mrinmayi. At one place on his way, what is the meaning of Mrinmayi? Made of clay, made of earth. Mrinmayi, image. Made of? Matti, dust. Mrit is clay. At one place on his way, he was in ecstasy and saw Mrinmayi's face only. When he went to the temple and saw the newly installed image, he found that it was not similar to the image seen in his ecstasy. He could not at all understand the reason for the disparity. On inquiry, it was afterwards known that the new image was really dissimilar to the old one. So new image is not awakened, and the old was awakened. While making the new image, the potter had actually formed the face in a different fashion in order to display skill. So something different. The broken head of the old image was carefully kept by a Brahmin in his own house. Shortly after that, devout Brahmin had another image made to bear that head and installed it in a beautiful spot near the pond Lalman and began to perform its daily worship on others. So the Brahmin made another image on that the old head. Now, anyway. The master's power of detecting the mental attitudes and aims of people, places and people. The first example. It is good to mention here a few examples of the master's power of detecting the aims and attitudes of people approaching him. We already mentioned that the master loved the revered Swami Brahmananda as if he were his own son. One day the Swami was standing on the northern side of the long veranda to the east of master's room, talking with him on various subjects. He saw a coach drawn by a pair of horses coming towards them from the direction of the gate of the garden. It was a phaeton, a type of carriage, and a few gentlemen were sitting in it. No sooner had he seen it than he could know that it belonged to a well-known rich man of Calcutta. Many people from Calcutta then used to come to see the master. He was therefore not astonished that they had also come for that purpose. Brahman Swami all this. But as soon as the master's eyes fell on that phaeton, He shrank with fear, went in extreme hurry out of their sight into his own room and sat down there. Surprised to see that attitude of the master, Swami Paramananda too followed him into the room. Scarcely had the master seen him when he said, "Go, go. If they want to come here, tell them I cannot see them now." You will not tell false thing that I am not there, but I cannot see them now straight. So charmed by the master, he came out again. In the meantime, the newcomers approached him and asked, "Does not a sadhu live here?" Swami Brahmananda mentioned the name of the master and said, "Yes, he lives here. Why do you want to see him?" One of them said, "One of our relatives is seriously ill. He can by no means be brought round. The sadhu might kindly give some medicine. That is why we have come." When they started, sadhus giving medicine, Buddha's time. Swami Brahmananda said, "You have been misinformed. He never gives any medicine to anyone. You may have heard of Brahmachari Durgananda. He indeed is there in the hut at the Panchavati. You will meet him there." When the newcomers had gone away, the master said to Swami Brahmananda, "I saw such a great power of tamas in them that I could not look at them, let alone talk to them. I fled out of fear." Fear means he'll have to talk to Tamoguni people and they will demand certain things. We found the master thus daily understanding from a higher plane of consciousness the high or low manifestation of power in every spiritual power or spirituality. The high or low manifestation of spirituality in every place, thing or person. We came to believe in his words, finding on repeated inquiry that such qualities, good or bad, as the master mentioned, really existed in them. We propose to mention here a few more such examples and then tell the reader what he experienced from the nerve plane of consciousness in those places of pilgrimage. This is a beautiful incident. The second example of this, Swami Vivekananda and his fellow pupils who came to Dakshineshwar. Swami Vivekananda judgment and Thakur judgment. Swami Vivekananda very intelligent, but had not that judgment at that time. The liberal-minded Swami Vivekananda, Udar he was. Used to feel pain from his childhood at others' misery. He therefore always encouraged all his friends and relatives to do whatever he had done and benefited from. Or he would ask his benefactors to be similarly benevolent to his friends. This was the Swami's habit with regard to education, religion and all other matters. We get an indication of the above mentioned fact from his actions. When he reached his youth, he organized meetings and associations in various places for prayer, meditation, etc. with his fellow peoples on fixed days. So many places. During his college life, no sooner had he become acquainted with Maharishi Devendranath and the devout Keshav, the leaders of the Brahma Samaj, then he took many of his friends to those personages. Seeing the Swami had the sacred privilege of meeting the master and became acquainted with the extraordinary detachment, renunciation and love of God, It became, as it were, a religious vow in his life to take his friends and fellow people's classmates and introduce them to him. Because we say this, as much as criticality Vivekananda had instead. Because we say this, let no one think that the intelligent Swami brought to the master anyone and everyone to whom he was attracted during a short acquaintance only. He used to take to Dakshineshwar only those whom, as a result of a long acquaintance, he knew to be possessed of good character and devoted to religion. Good character and devoted to religion. One cannot become what one wishes to even by making effort. Thakur's quotation. The Swami thus took many of his friends to the master then, many of his. But we were told from time to time by both the master and the Swami that the divine insight of the master penetrated to their inner nature and arrived at different conclusions. The Swami said, when I found that the master did not bestow that kind of grace on them which he had done on me by accepting me and instructed me in spiritual matters, I used to ask him importunately to bestow it also on them. There is a potential divinity in everybody, but there has to be another potential to manifest it. That is not available. On account of boyish flippancy, I was ready on many occasions to argue with them. I said, why, sir? God is indeed never so partial as to bestow His grace on some and not on others. Why should you then not accept them as you have done me? Is it not certain that one can attain spirituality and realize God if one wills and makes efforts? Just as one can become a learned scholar if one puts forth an effort. The master replied, what can I do, my child? Mother shows me, that means from a higher point of view I see. Mother shows me that there is the beastly mental attitude of a bull in them. They cannot realize spirituality in this life. What can I do? And what is it you say? Can anyone become in this life what he wishes to by mere will and effort? But who lent an ear to the master's word then? I said, what do you say, sir? Can't one become what one wishes to? If one wills and makes effort, surely one can. I cannot believe what you say about it. At that also the master said the same thing. Whether you believe it or not, mother shows me that. I never accepted then what he said. But as time passed on, more and more did I understand from experience that what the master said was right and what I had thought was wrong. The third example in connection with the master's drinking water during his visit to Pandit Shashada, that is a very, very important thing. The Swami said that it was by testing and apprising him thus that he could gradually believe in all the words of the master. It will not be out of place to narrate here another event as told by the Swami to show that he tested every action and behavior of the master. Having heard from the Swami about Pandit Shashadhar Tarkachudamani, having heard from Swami Vivekananda about Tarkachudamani, the master went to see him on the day of the car festival of 1895, Ratha Yatra. Now Swamiji told that he experienced many things like that. So Thakur went to see the Pandit. And Swamiji wanted him to go. He gave the Pandit various instructions, such as those persons only who have got power direct from the Mother of the Universe can truly become preachers of religion. The grandiloquence of other so-called preachers is in vain. Oratory will not convey spirituality. Arguments will not convey spirituality. Only we have chapras, as Thakur called it. Only if you have a chapras, a command from God, then only you can convince people. And so on. And then ask for a glass of water to drink. We do not know whether the master was thirsty and wanted water or had some other purpose. For he told us on another occasion that harm came on a householder. If a sadhu or a sannyasi, a guest or a fakir went to his house but without taking anything, the grihastha must give something to the sadhu. Must. And if the sadhu goes away without taking anything, that harm will come to the household. So when Thakur visited anybody's house, he asked for water sometime. He will not give me something to eat. So that was the purpose, or he wanted to drink, I do not know, Swamiji said. Therefore he went to any house, he asked for something and ate it before he returned. Even if the householder did not of his own accord offer anything or forgot to do so, here let me consult Bengali for a particular thing. No. Thakur did not eat anything. Then you know Bengali sufficiently now. Eating, drinking, both they say khawa. Understood? So now in the original Bengali it is khawa. In English it is translated eating. But Thakur took only water. So this translation requires a correction here. He asked for something and took it. Took it will be all right. Consumed it. Instead of ate, we require a better word, which will, you cannot say ate or drank. So one word which will be comprehensive. And took it. Took it is only taking. But took it can mean he took away with him. No. Consume. Took or consume. Even if the householder did not of his own accord offer anything or forgot to do so. Anyway, he did not offer or forgot to do so. Thakur used to ask. Anyway, as soon as the master asked for water, a person with tilaka, strings of beads and other emblems of religion on his body respectfully brought a glass of water and gave it to the master. But when the master was about to drink it, he could not do so. Barometer. Another man who was beside him saw it and threw away the water in the glass. Filling it then with water again, he brought the glass to the master. The master drank a little of it and bade goodbye to the Pandit for that day. Everyone thought that something had fallen into the water brought breakfast, and that was why the master had not drink it. The Swami said that he was sitting very near the master then. He therefore saw clearly that there was neither a mote nor a bit of straw or any dirt in the water. Yet the master had refused to drink it. On pondering over the cause of it, so that sharp pondering is there in some. The Swami thought the glass of water was perhaps polluted by contactual impurity, sparsha dosha. Because water is water. For he had heard the master say that his hand did not proceed but contracted after going a little forward to take any kind of food or drink brought by those in whom worldly mindedness was viciously prevalent, who dishonestly earned money by cheating, robbery, or doing harm to others in any other way. Three types of people is describing, on whom worldly mindedness was viciously prevalent, who dishonestly earn money by cheating, robbery, or doing harm to others in any other way, and who externally assume the guise of religion so that it might be of help to them in satisfying their lust and greed. He was also heard to say that he could know those things immediately. The Swami said that as soon as that thought arose in his mind, he made a firm resolve to ascertain the truth of that matter. And though requested by the master himself to come with him on that occasion, the Swami helped him to the carriage, expressed his inability to come with him, and said that an urgent piece of business detained him there. What was that urgent piece of business? To find out things. As the Swami was already acquainted with the younger brother of the man with the emblems of religion on his person, he called him to a secluded place when the master had left and began to put questions to him about the character of his elder brother. Questioned thus, he hesitated at first, but afterwards said, "How can I speak of the bad character of my elder brother?" And so on. The Swami said, "I could understand the truth from that. Later on, I questioned another person of the household who was acquainted with me and came to know everything. Freed from doubt, then I wondered how the master could have known people's mind. The nature of the master's mental constitution, the standard by which he judged all things and persons and ascertained their worth." So that was his judgment. How beautiful he is, how moneyed he is, how learned he is, how spiritual he is, or absence of spirituality. If you want to know how, when dwelling in the normal plane of consciousness, the master detected and understood the internal good and bad qualities of all things, we must first of all understand his mental constitution, and then know the constant standard by which he judged all things and arrived at certain conclusions about them. By external signs also he can judge. We have given the reader an indication of it in many places of this book. It will therefore suffice to make here only a brief mention of it. As the master's mind was not attached to any worldly thing, it became, we have seen, immediately united with or separated from anything he wanted to accept or reject. Suppose you want to accept, immediately the mind will catch. He would not fear or sankoch or other things. But if it has not to be taken, immediately you leave it complete, not to look at it at all. That was by his habit and practice he had come to this. So it is a lesson for us. When separated from anything, it never again cast a look behind, even once during his life. It is called longing, lingering look behind. He did not have. Again, the master's extraordinary steadfastness, wonderful power of discrimination, and perfect attention gave him full control over his mind and kept it steady for any length of time on any object. That means acceptance or rejectance. Rejected, never look at it. Accepted, keep the mind steady on it. That is how we have to practice. They did not allow it. Those objects, for a moment to think of or imagine anything else. As soon as one part of it was ready to accept or reject anything, another part of it asked instantly within the mind, why are you going to do so? If it got a reasonable answer to this question, it said, it is very good, do it by all means. Sankalpa, vikalpa in our mind, it is like this. Instinctively or by the built-up sanskar, he accepts something. Mind questions, why are you doing this? Then if we see it is good, then accept. And the moment that conclusion was reached, the other part of the mind said at once, then stick to it firmly. What analysis are these? You must never act contrary to it. Whether you are eating or relaxing, whether it be your waking state or the dreaming one, even in dream. All parts of his mind then accepted that thing unanimously and acted accordingly. Steadfastness stood guard over and carefully scrutinized his mind's behavior regarding it. So, even if by mistake he proceeded to act against the decision, the master clearly felt as if someone from within had tied down his sense and did not allow him to act that way. We all understand the above mentioned words when we study the master's lifelong behavior towards all things and persons. An example of it, I don't want a learning that results in the bundling of rice and plantain. Observe how the boy Gadadhar had gone to school for barely a few days. When he said at once, I don't want that art which teaches one to bundle rice and plantain. I won't learn it. Thinking his younger brother was going astray, the master's elder brother Ramkumar made an attempt to persuade him to acquire learning under the direct supervision in his own Chatushpati in Calcutta. What is Chatushpati? Where Sanskrit is taught and literature in Sanskrit or religious or whatever is taught. That is called Chatushpati. But he could not change the master's opinion, formed during his childhood, regarding a breadwinning education. The master was not unaware that even by opening a Chatushpati and teaching pupils according to his capacity, he could not maintain his family. Ramkumar. The master thought it was far better for his elder brother, though a Pandit of virtuous conduct, to be appointed priest and Rangiras monastery. Then earn money by flattering the rich, and this led to his approval of his brother's action. That means when Ramkumar assumed the priesthood, Thakur approved it because that will be useful in devotion. Second example, his feeling as if someone tightened up all the joints of his body as soon as he sat for meditation, and a vision of a person with a trident in hand. Everything becomes palpable in Thakur's life. As soon as he sat for meditation during his sadhana, he felt all the joints of his body becoming locked up with rapping sound, as if someone from within tightened them up in order to keep him sitting for a long time in the same cross-legged posture in which he had sat down. And until he unlocked them, he means somebody within. The master could not, even if he tried to turn, move, or otherwise, use the joints of the hands, legs, neck, waist, and other parts of the body at will. Or sometimes it became concretized. Or he saw a person with a trident in hand sitting beside him and saying, "If you think on anything except God, I will pierce your chest with this trident." Asked during the time of worship to look upon himself as identified with the mother of the universe, his mind began to do so. Although he was going to offer China roses and bilwa leaves at her lotus feet, someone, as it were, caused his hands to turn and pull them towards his own. You understand this? In our worship, tantric worship, we are asked to feel that deity is within us. Now we feel, we do not feel. We say, and then outside feel. But when Thakur felt, he felt it really identified. So he worshipped himself. Third example, going to offer flowers at the lotus feet of the Universal Mother, he placed them on his own head. And going to offer oblations of water to the forefathers, he was unable to. These are two different things. Again, as he was initiated in sannyasa, his mind continued to see the one non-dual Brahman in all beings. That is the meaning of sannyasa. Although he went to offer oblations of water to his forefathers, Tarpan, as he was wont to do, his hands became stiff. He could not take the water to be offered in the hollow of the joint path. Like that. He was thus perforce reminded that Vedic actions had been renounced by him as he had taken sannyas. Before taking sannyas, he was doing tarpa. But when he took sannyas, the meaning of the sannyas entered him. Sannyasi does not have this adhikar, that adhikar. But Thakur actually became that. Now his conclusion from all this. The spiritual experiences of the unlettered master demonstrated the truths contained in the Vedas and other Shastras. Because he had read Vedas, so he was acting now. His actions automatically went like that. This is the use of the incarnation. Many such examples can be given to prove how easy and natural the detachment, discrimination, concentration, and steadfastness of his mind were. Vivek, Vairagya, Ekagrata, Nishtha. As this experience of the master were exactly what were recorded in the scriptures, it was proved that what was written in the scriptures was true. The revered Swami Vivekananda said, that is the reason why the master came this time to play the part of an unlettered person. He remained illiterate because he wanted to demonstrate that the spiritual states recorded in the Vedas and the Vedantas of the Hindus and in the religious books of other people were all true, and that man can actually realize those states by traveling along the paths indicated there. You understand? There is something called conditioned thinking. An important point here, very important. Because you read Vedas, so you think like that, and you see like that. That is called conditioned thinking. In modern days, that J. Krishnamurti is fond of that, pseudo Vedanta. And what Buddha did, he rejected the Vedas. And all his experiences are like the Vedas. But rejection also is a condition of the mind. Thakur did not reject, but did not go that way first. And when he had independently corroborated the Vedas, then he undertook the Vedas and all Shastra. So because we require them. That is the speciality of Thakur. Understood? You can read the details of this in one of my lectures. It has come out as an article in Prabhupada. No, this is a para which we should read or we could not read. I will just start and then stop. Or I will read the heading. The goal of human life is the attainment of the non-dual knowledge. In that state, all jackals howl in the same way. That means those who are realized will talk in the same. With Sri Chaitanya, devotion was like the tusks of an elephant which are seen, and the non-dual knowledge like the inner teeth which are not seen. Anyway, I have to go to Bengali. ठीक है
सर कल की क्लास कैंसिल
कल तो हो गई
प्रोग्राम
that is 5:30 my class is 7 and that thing is not here, that thing is in the hall. I have consulted with him. Anyway, we will take it about tomorrow. Important point. So we read up to para 29 today, 30 we will take up tomorrow. Om Sarvadharma Stapakastam Sarvadharma Swarupaka Acharyana Mahacharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. They have not asked me to stop the class. थोड़े प्रोग्राम अटेंड करना है
वो अच्छा आप नीचे नहीं जाएंगे
बिल्कुल नहीं होंगे इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कशन है